Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
The president, Iran is not just Iran. We have this sort of new axis of evil of Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela. And what the president seems to be doing, to me anyway, is isolating them from each other and then sort of picking them off one by one, forcing them into a more conciliatory posture vis-a-vis the United States. And honestly, what could be more America first than that? China was getting 10% of its oil from Venezuela at sort of bargain basement rates, and the other 10% from Iran. So it's lost 20% of its oil supply. So for China now, every barrel it has to consider, okay, are we going to use that for our expansionist foreign policy goals, or do we have to really focus on protecting our domestic aims, especially at a time when it is heading into an economic crisis? Now that choice is being forced on China. It's in a much weaker position than it was 3 months ago. And I think when you think about Taiwan, one of the most important and most difficult and treacherous foreign policy questions for the United States, to me, it seems like China is much less likely now to do something there just because it's much less likely to be able to easily afford it. I mean, that would take unbelievable amounts of energy to pull off. So the president is really playing 4D chess here, and I think it's really starting to pay off. I think an Iran that is cooperating with the United States, that gives up on any nuclear enrichment, anything to do with that, which the president has said he will not accept any uranium enrichment from the Iranians, that has then sanctions relief from the United States. I mean, why would they then go to China? They only went to China because we had the sanctions on them. So the president is creating governments that are, it's not full-fledged Bush-era regime change. I mean, you can look at Dulce Rodriguez and see he didn't do that in Venezuela. They're playing a much more mature, limited game, no boots on the ground. Honestly, I just don't see how Iran can even afford to keep this up for the 4 weeks the president has said it's going to take. And I think the same thing with Russia and China. It's amazing that neither Russia nor China has lifted a finger to help Iran. You had a phone call between the Chinese and Sergei Lavrov, where they all, you know, they rattled the saber. They said, this is terrible, but they haven't done anything. Nobody can afford it, and they can't afford to take on this president.
Welcome to More War Monday on the Rob Maness Show, and we're live on Worldview Tube and our X-Space simulcast. Well, the China active threat, inside and out. And folks, today we're talking about that. We're going to deep dive into America's greatest threat, communist China. And it's been empowered by our own missteps over decades. The United States faces two enemies, external and internal. Externally, it is China proper, the Chinese Communist Party, now the most powerful adversary America has ever confronted. And it's openly determined to surpass and replace the United States as the world's leading superpower. Internally, it's the radical left, whose influence has fueled unrest, riots, and what increasingly resembles open insurrection. But the connection? Chinese communism, socialism, Marxism, and its modern variant, often called neo-Marxism or wokeism. Even threats like Islamism gain ground under this intellectual cover of communism and its institutional protection in the West. President Trump called Nixon's opening to China the worst mistake in American foreign policy, and he's right. We don't blame China for exploiting us. We blame American leaders who allowed it and continue to allow it. If we'd understood communism earlier, the CCP might never have seized power. Today, the CCP has embedded itself in our institutions, our academia, our businesses, technology, media, culture while benefiting from ideological sympathy on the American left. This is an undeclared, unrestricted, protracted war, and knowledge is our first weapon. And I'm honored to have the great American patriot, Xi Van Fleet, join me to discuss her powerful new book that lays all of this bare. Xi lived through the horrors of the Chinese Cultural Revolution as a schoolgirl, forced to the countryside with young Chinese for re-education after high school. She later escaped communism and found freedom and a new life right here in America. But more than 30 years later, she is seeing the signs of the same cultural Marxism that ravaged her birth country, threatening to destroy the America she now calls home along with the rest of us. She is the author of Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, and her powerful new book, Made in America, The Hidden History of How the U.S. Enabled Communist China and Created Our Greatest Threat. And by golly, if that clip doesn't tell you it is, you need to listen to the rest of this show, because Xi Van Fleet is here with me now. Xi, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for that great opening. You absolutely touched most of the important the issues and absolutely the most important point.
Well, let's talk about the external piece to this. That's why I wanted to start with that clip about Operation Epic Fury, because I think the president's grand strategy is all focused at China, as the journalist mentioned in that clip, and even this attack right now, while we want to destroy the Islamist theocracy in Iran and take it down, the real target is China, their economy, their oil resources, and their ability to continue this expansionist and aggressive foreign policy, isn't it?
Absolutely. I can't say this enough, but President Trump is the only president of the United States that really understands the threat by the Chinese Communist Party. And he put that very clear in his first campaign, that China, the way he said that, I love it, China is our enemy. It is absolutely our top, most deadly threat. But for all these years, going back a century, that the Americans failed again and again to understand the nature of communism, especially the nature of the Chinese communism, which to me is even a worse version of the Soviet communism.
One of the things that I didn't realize until I took a look at your book, this new book, Xi, is the Soviet play before Mao was able to take over China proper, but we allowed the Soviets to influence them so that they could be successful, didn't we? We in America?
Absolutely, absolutely. And my book takes us back to the very beginning, to the early 1900s, and who set the stage for China to really to have this red tide, and that is Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was the one that's responsible for helping to introduce Leninism, Bolshevik, into China. And after that, and that all we have, I'm not going to talk too much about it. People have to read the book. And it all started with the Paris peace talk. But he was the one absolutely set the whole thing in motion. And the peace talk was 1919. 2 years later, 1921, the Chinese Communist Party was founded. By who? By the Soviet Union. And then so after that, for almost, for more than a decade, the United States political leadership believed that China mattered little to the American national interest. It is so vast, it is so poor, it is over there, far away from us, and it just does not worth any of our attention. And I really want to drive this to home, that the isolationists absolutely failed us, because while they have their own reasoning, sounds kind of reasonable, they failed to understand. Soviet Union did not think so. Soviet Union did not think that China was too poor, too vast, to matter to them. They started right after the Paris peace talk, start to help build, and really to attract all the leftist intellectuals to the idea of Leninism, and help them funded everything to help them to build the party. When the party was founded in 1921, there were only 51 or 52 members, and all of them were intellectuals, professors and their students. And by the time that United States forced to back to engage with China, that was the World War II. By then, the Communist Party was a formidable political force in China.
What about and I want people to read the book too, so I'm choosing my questions carefully. What about the United States intellectual set and elite, the people in charge of the United States, just prior to World War II, during World War II, and then just after? What about them chose to enable? Because I think we did. You can confirm this or not.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
What about them chose to enable Mao instead of protecting General Chiang Kai-shek and his government?
Yeah, this is a fascinating story, and I spent a whole chapter on this, and call those people the old friends of Chinese people. It's a title. It's a title that the CCP gave to the so-called useful idiots. And a lot of them were American journalists, and later American diplomats, American political leaders, American military generals. Yes, and they all served as useful idiots. But if we have to go to one person and who started all this, that's Edgar Snow. And he single-handedly actually rehabilitated the CCP from the image of red bandits to something like a future of China. And his book, Red Star Over China, and sold millions of copies, and is still in print today. And that book was read not just by American public, who absolutely say, yes, CCP is the future. The Kuomintang, the Chiang Kai-shek government is so corrupt, it's beyond saving, and CCP is the future. And it also influenced presidents such as FDR, Truman, and all the way to Nixon. Nixon actually talked to Edgar Snow before he came to China to get his advice. So this book absolutely influenced so many Americans and turned the tide around. And not only that, this book was later translated into Chinese. And so in English, it's Red Star Over China. But that sounds a little bit communist, right? So they to escape the censorship of the Kuomintang government, they chanted into Journal to the West. And sounds like some kind of adventure book, right?
Yeah, it does.
Two of my uncles read that book, and they decided to abandon their family, which were well-to-do landlord family, to join the revolution. So they went to Yan'an, the wartime capital of the CCP, and they joined the revolution. So this book is absolutely so influential. And basically, I would say he single-handedly helped the CCP to win victory and take over China. If I have to, there's so many more. After him, there's so many more other useful idiots, but he is the one. He is the first one to get called old friend of the Chinese people by the CCP. And after he died in Switzerland because to escape the investigation by Senator McCarthy. So he died in Switzerland, and he had half of his ashes buried in China, in Beijing University. That's
wow.
That tells us comes.
That tells the story right there. Yeah,
exactly.
it does.
That he
Well,
lost.
we gotta take a commercial break, G. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation because G writes in her new book that we missed it. We didn't understand Chinese communism. I want to dive into that a little bit and about this concept of unrestricted warfare that they're practicing on us and everybody else today. We'll be right back with G. Van Fleet.
States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela since 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
Let's talk big picture.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And my guest today is Ms. G. Van Fleet, author of Made in America, The Hidden History about how the U.S. enabled communist China and created our greatest threat. And it is our greatest threat. Ms. G, you write in the book about how we didn't understand, especially Maoist communism, but we really didn't understand communism at all. And now you heard Marco Rubio there talking about how this threat has become global. It's not just the United States, but they focus their Belt and Road Initiative, which I view that is their expansionist foreign policy effort that combines military, economic, and coercion and indoctrination into areas like the Panama Canal, where they had a Chinese company at each end of the Panama Canal trying to take control of it until the Panamanians, since Trump came in, have said, no, we're not going to do that because we woke them up. What is it that we didn't understand that we need to, that can help us view through the lens to properly identify what's happening now?
Yes, this is a very, very important question. What is communism? Communism is globalism. Communism is international. It is international in its inception. It is in its DNA. You know, when I grew up in China, we're all taught, every little kid, we're taught that our goal is to liberate the humanity, everybody. So we're taught that China was a socialist country, but we cannot get into communism until every country in the world become a socialist country. That's when we enter the ultimate utopia, communism. So communism is globalism, and the globalism in many ways is communism. So during the Nixon era, they come to the conclusion that Soviet Union was expansionist. The Soviet Union was imperialist. And so then they figure, Kissinger and of course figure, then it makes sense for us to ally with China. The Chinese communism is not real communism. And that's what Edgar Snow has been saying in his book, that Chinese communism, they're really reformers. They are not truly communists. They are just agrarian reformers. They are fighting for the poor peasants. So they're not imperialistic and they are not expansionist. Wrong. They were not until they were, when they had money. And that is what we see today.
Yeah, and we, instead of isolating their economy like we did the Soviet Union, we did the opposite of it. And that's why I agree with you totally. We created our greatest threat ourselves. We got a question in the live audience. Let's go ahead and take that. Go ahead, Shell is our host over there.
We have AJ, sir.
Thank you so much for the mic, Shell. Colonel, thank you, sir. Ms. Van Fleet, what are the realities when it comes to the massive faction of the Chinese military that are loyal to Zhang Huxia and the Chinese party elders to come together to sort of circumvent Xi, to, I suppose, render him politically redundant, given the fact that now that we are 3 days into this joint operation in Iran, and it's clearly can be seen that the Chinese technologies, the military technologies that have been transferred to Iran have been highly ineffective. And on top of that, the Chinese people and the Chinese military members do not want any part of this Taiwan expansion. So what are your thoughts on that, if any? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. I would say that one of the American journalists interviewed Mao in Yan'an in 1940s. And Mao famously said, the American imperialists were paper tigers. And absolutely, I think he was right about the word paper tigers. That's what that's what the Chinese military is truly about. It's not what it claimed it to be. And because look at the infight right now. The infight is that Xi Jinping basically single-handedly destroyed the Chinese military by removing so many top leaders and considering them his political threat. And also inside the Chinese military, how do you get up the ladder? You buy it. You can buy a title with money, and every official there in the military or corrupt. Every one of them had embezzled, I don't know how millions of dollars. Do you think that kind of military has the fighting power? Not at all. But it appealed to the outside that it is unconquerable. And I know what happened in Venezuela. Their space defense equipment did not work. And how about in Iran? Did not work either. So I would say, of course, we should not regard them as a total paper tiger, but that's what truly they are. They are paper tigers to me.
Yeah, the America First foreign policy of the President Trump, we that support that, and look, I helped campaign for him, raise money for him, those kind of things, just like many others did. We've been called isolationists. Do you think that, but we're not, obviously. You saw Marco Rubio there. Now, he's not an isolationist and has never been accused of it, but he is talking about but he is talking about President Trump's foreign policy and military policy, which is focused at the main threat. Even the priorities of, hey, we're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere, but it's really about the main threat, which is China. Greenland's really about the main threat. China,
everything.
Iran,
Panama,
everything.
Greenland,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that there will be a move afoot as we've seen that the Chinese Communist Party's military is weaker than they portray it to be because their systems don't really work against our tactics, techniques, and procedures and our systems? We've proven it twice now, I think. Do you think there will be a move afoot to go, hey, we don't need to focus on China. It's not real. What would you say to those that try to say that?
Well, I think a lot of people are saying that. A lot of Democrats and the rhinos are saying that right now. They're saying that. But I'm just so glad that Trump is in office, and Trump absolutely understands where the threat is. And in order for us to be America first, we have to defeat the CCP.
Yeah. Because if we don't, I think from an oil perspective, especially, we've now isolated up almost 25% of the CC's oil supply buys that they do, their imports between Iran and Venezuela. And if we don't continue to do that and do things like recreate our manufacturing here so we can build sea lift ships, merchant marine ships, cargo ships, not just military ones, but civilian ones, because the Chinese, they're able to build like 1,700 ships to R1 in a year. It's incredible, the disparity there. So while the military gear may not be working as designed yet and may not be there yet, their ability to move things and resupply themselves can overcome any of those kind of lower level type technical issues, right?
Absolutely, we should take them very seriously, and not only that, they basically become the factory of the world, and they control many of the supply chain. But also, they are embedded into every aspect of our country, everywhere. And you mentioned in your opening, and it's we can see it everywhere. We can't even see where the CCP's influence starts and where it ends. It's just like everywhere. And recently, and you probably heard about the CCP buying a lot of elite private schools. Mm-hmm. And they're buying it not because they think that's a business to make money. And usually it's not a business to make money, but they want to control the not just the educational system, but the private elite private schools, because that's where future leaders might come from. So they want to start young. They want to start it everywhere. And you heard about the anchor baby story of up to 1 million, right? Had the baby here, got the automatic citizenship, and then 18 years, and then before 18 years, by now they're probably 5 years old or older, and they can come back and vote. But you can't say that CCP is just so evil. They do all this kind of thing. They are evil. It's a snake. It's a snake. It's we that allow them to do that. Yeah. So we are the farmer. We are the cruelest farmer that saved the snake. And now we are facing the consequences. So I would say, stop complaining that the CCP took every opportunity and every loophole to advance their interests. That is the nature of the snake. Ask what we have done or what we should do. And that is going the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely right. The President Trump has read that story about the snake many times in public at his speeches, and that's what he's talking about, is exactly that right there. We got to take another break. When we come back, I want to make the connection to Islam and Islamism and Marxism and the Chinese Communist Party, because this is very important, folks. It's happening right here, right down the street from you, before your very eyes. I guarantee it. We'll be right back with Xi Van Fleet about her new book, Made in America.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
How did they start the Islamizing of America? Phase one, you come as peaceful. You're the victim. You come as immigrants. I need help. I need welfare. You come in the country. You introduce halal food. The women wear hijabs. And it's like, you know what? Let's just coexist. Then we go to phase two. Phase two is kind of a little bit more aggressive in public. Now they're gathering in larger groups, like thousands, like New York City. Thousands of Muslims are gathering, praying in the street. They're now getting in political spheres, like Zohra Mamdani. They're becoming a little bit more public.
Wasn't it at LA?
Yeah.
LAX airport, where one of the shops was just playing the Quran out loud. So that you could hear as you're walking by. That'd be stage two.
That's kind of stage two. Islamizing, let's slowly do it. New York City, you have, food trucks playing the Quran out loud, bit by bit. Then you go to phase three. Phase three is where the UK is at right now. Phase three, they get very aggressive. They begin to get violent. Terrorist attacks increase. So Sydney would be going into phase three right now. Knife attacks increase. The knife attacks in the UK is horrendous. Rape cases increase. The UK, Europe has had 200,000 rape cases in the last 200 years. Sorry, in the last 20 years. 200,000 rape cases in the last 20 years by Pakistani Muslims. So that's phase three. Rape cases increase, terrorist attacks increase. And then you go to phase four. Phase four is now kind of where no one is there yet, except obviously Afghanistan and all the Muslim countries. Now Christians are called the infidels. Churches are burnt. Pastors are killed. Women are raped. Children become Muslims. So my warning to America is if you don't wake up, you're going to be Islamized. And America have this pride. Americans can sometimes be proudful. No, my country. And it's good to be proud of your country, but don't let it turn into arrogance in a sense where you become ignorant to the fact that Islam is a religion, is a conquering religion. Islam conquers countries for a living. And for 1400 years, they've conquered countries. So Muhammad, after he died, within 100 years of his death, Islam conquered 50 to 60% of the Christian world.
Wow.
So if America thinks, Islam's not going to conquer me, that's just arrogance. Egypt thought that and they were conquered. Yemen thought that they were conquered. Morocco thought that and they were conquered. The UK thought that and they're being conquered. So America needs to really wake up or you're not going to be Christian anymore.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast, and it's More War Monday. My guest is Ms. G. Van Fleet, the author of her latest book, Made in America, The Hidden History about how the United States enabled the rise of the Chinese Communist Party and enabled the creation of our greatest threat. And you may not think that clip right there about Islam is linked to it, but it is, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Ms. Van Fleet to come on and talk about this book, because it talks about this issue about how what Islam is, what it isn't, and how it's enabled and linked to Marxism, especially the Chinese Communist Party version of it. Ms. G, that people see that and it gets their attention. But what doesn't get their attention is this close alliance between the Marxism and the communists and Islamism and how it's actually working together as we speak.
That's called unholy alliances, red and green. Absolutely. But I think that in order to understand how Islamism made its wave here, you have to understand communism. So, and you have to understand neo-communism or neo-Marxism, or in another word, it's woke. It's the woke ideology. It is the woke ideology that paved the way for Islamists. Can you imagine when there's no DEI, no identity politics, no such thing as a critical race theory, and that people just say, okay, we welcome Islamism. Islamism has been the enemy with Christianity for centuries, and people with any memory will remember 9/11. But how come now it just walked in into our homes and into our institutions? Because they now have a protection. That protection is cultural Marxism or woke ideology. And here is something I think a lot of people missed, that communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever, it's all the same thing. It's a religion. It is absolutely a religion. It's not just, communism is atheists. No, they're not. They are absolutely religious. So communism is a religion. And so in order to find an ally, they to take down America, because that's their shared enemy. They found Islamism. But in order to defeat Islamism, we have to first of all understand communism and understand it's a religion, and understand why they ally with Islamism. But here is the thing: these two cannot coexist with each other. So right now, they find themselves as allies because they share one enemy. They share that one enemy, and actually it's a trio. The enemy is a trio. It is Christianity, capitalism, and the United States, which embodied both. So, but if they win, God forbid, they will fight to death with each other because they cannot coexist. These two religions have no tolerance, zero tolerance with each other. And I had this discussion with some of my Muslim friends, and they believe that when these two fight, Islamism will win. And I kind of believe communism will win because they're both ruthless. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like communism will be the winner. But either way, it is end of us, end of freedom, end of United States.
Why is it? I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but talk about the money. There are billions of dollars behind both of these ideologies and these religions, and I guess I agree with you. I've been known to say that Islam is not really a religion; it's an ideology. But you could say it's a religion and an ideology together, kind of like you can say communism is an ideology and a religion together. So I could accept that. But why is it that it seems the billions and billions of dollars from philanthropists that have made their money in large part through capitalism and freedom are throwing dollars into these ideologies and these religions?
Yeah, that is a very good question. And we have Soros on here, and we have now this guy called Roy Sinhan. And he's like the Soros in China. And I think you have to ask why they want to support anti-America and forces or political forces to take over America. The question is why they hate America so much. I think maybe the other question to ask is maybe they love power too much, because this gives them power. This gives them the power to take down a country, to take down a government. And I think maybe that's what their joy is from, is that they feel like they have this kind of power to change the world according to their understanding, according to their image. Maybe that's the reason. I don't understand. I don't understand why people like Soros come here and America gave them everything, yet they will do everything. And they will use the wealth they made here in this free country and against the country that gives them that kind of freedom. I don't understand. The only thing I can see is power. I think really to understand communism is to understand power. It's never about those narratives for the poor, for the marginalized people, for the brown, black, and purple, whatever. No, it's for power. It's for their power. For those financiers, they get power. They believe that they get power by putting their money and enable all those people to make trouble everywhere. And sometimes they succeeded in really overthrow governments around the world. And so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just very puzzling that people that have made their billions of dollars successfully in a free environment, a capitalism environment, would throw all of their fortune at something that's intended to destroy that. And it not only will destroy their wealth, but it will destroy, if say they were able to take over the United States, that would destroy the wealth creating ability of the United States of America, because it's about that wealth creating ability is about us being free. Still, I mean, we're still pretty free. It's getting worse, but we're still pretty free, and it's because of that freedom that we can still generate this wealth. I mean, you can print as much money as you want these days with the Fed and all that stuff, but still, you have to have a baseline of revenue, and that baseline is created by you and I and our families and our kids.
They make their trillions or billions of trillions or whatever, so they don't want us to make more money. They want, I think, after all, I think they all have God complex. They feel like they're so powerful, they have so much money, they can determine what kind of world they want it to be. I think maybe this is what it is, God complex.
Yeah, they're certainly worshiping the wrong God, and I can see why they fear Christianity, because it's really the one world religion where you are totally free to accept it or reject it without penalty, without threats of God or its adherents coming to chop your head off, or God blowing you up, and those kind of things. When we talk about inside the United States and these two, and we'll continue this in the last segment too, Ms. G, but these two ideas of Marxism and Islamism, when we talk about it within the United States itself at the tactical level, one of the things that we saw at the very beginning of the Operation Epic Fury here, which has only been going 48 hours or so, but was within a few hours, there are demonstrators on the streets all across the country, and in some cases around the world, with pre-made signs specifically about the operation. Pre-made signs.
I saw that report.
Yeah. So I want to get down to the operational and tactical level of that, and get your take on why that's important for us to know it, but also what are the implications of that, because we've seen a lot of things going on the average American is concerned about, and it doesn't seem like the people in charge of our government all the time at every level are paying enough attention to it, and more importantly, developing an approach to it to eradicate this from our society. And we think that it puts us in danger by those government entities ignoring it. I mean, there are thousands of acres of farmland here in Mississippi owned by the Chinese Communist Party. We know that. But when you ask somebody in charge at the state level, they go, well, my hands are tied, et cetera. There's not much I can do about it. We'll try to pass another bill. We've got to get our hands and our heads wrapped around that very quickly. We'll be right back with G. Van Fleet and her new book. Come back to this next segment. It's very important. Made in America.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com. Worldviewtalk.com.
The CCP is taking advantage of our tax-exempt sector to poison our dialogue and cause division in our political system. That should alarm every single person, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat. If you are an American, you should be extremely concerned with what's going on at the expense of our tax-exempt status.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and we're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And we are live with my guest, Ms. G. Van Fleet. She's got a new book out, Made in America. It's the hidden story about how the United States itself has enabled the growing power of the Communist Chinese Party and made it the greatest threat that we're facing today. I agree with President Trump and his team and with her on that. And Ms. G, I think the congressman there is focused on non-government organizations. And we've seen a lot of stories since Elon Musk and Doge uncovered the USAID issue. And when you start peeling those layers back, like our friend Data Republican has done, and it continues to do for all Americans, we see some very, very dangerous things, like non-government organizations that Soros has set up, is able to funnel not just his money, but U.S. tax dollars into it. And then those same organizations are the ones that the individual, Mr. Singh, who is also funneling billions of dollars into similar organizations, and they're working together. And that's what results in those signs and people in the thousands out in the streets within hours of this secret mission kicking off by the United States and Israel on last Friday morning, in the early morning hours. It's like instantaneous, and that tells me that their resource funnel is still operating. And all this effort we've made to look at NGOs throughout the country at the federal level really hasn't had a whole lot of impact when it comes to that operation. And that operation really is a low-level insurgency, in my opinion, that's backed by the Chinese Communist Party, who I believe, I agree with you, will eventually take over once they do away with their Islamist friends that they are currently working with.
That before even Trump made the announcement, the signs were already on the streets, ready to be used the following day. And so, but this is nothing new. The Chinese Communist Party had its hands in almost all the riots, all the civil unrest, all the protests that we've seen in the past few years, and going back to the BMM. So I don't know how much work has been done to investigate and identify those organizations that get money from the CCP. And in my book, I spent a whole chapter talking about how the CCP trying to take over, infiltrate and take over America. And this is something I think by now everybody should be familiar with. It is called United Front. United Front was a concept invented by Lenin and then taught the CCP later. And it's really an infiltration operation. And the difference between spying and influence is very subtle. It can go either way, and it is everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere, and a lot of them were operating legally. And you can see there's a lot of Chinese organization here. Many of them got money from the Chinese embassy. What they do? One of the things they do is any policies or legislation actions taken in different states or the country that is not beneficial to the CCP. You will see them on the street demonstrating in the name of what? Asian hate, racist, and the same thing that we see in other demonstrations. But these are Chinese people doing it, and so it's absolutely very much widespread. And I would say at this point, there's no Chinese organization in America that is not infiltrated by the CCP. The only question is how successfully. Some are very successfully taken over. They've absolutely become operation organization for the CCP. Some probably less. But this is what's going on in America. And they also reach out to Americans, of course, all levels, politicians, business people. And there's something new nowadays, and it's called the China Maxim. China Maxim is a kind of a trend on the social media. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't heard about that. What is that?
Okay, it's by mostly this time it's by the young Americans who have been to China. Most of them probably paid for by the CCP. They come back and say, China is so cool. And China is just another country. The Chinese people are just like us. And we were taught to hate China, but China is really a lovely country. And so it's cool to be Chinese. It's cool to adapt some of the Chinese culture, Chinese habits, such as drinking warm water instead of ice water. It's same kind of a harmless, but I can see that. It's just so obvious that is a United Front operation in action. They use this useful idiots. And some of them get paid, some of them probably not. They're just willing to do that. Basically say China is just another country. It is an advanced capitalist country. And so they missed one most important thing. Chinese people are not like American people. Chinese people are not free, but they don't know that. And so this is flooded everywhere in social media, basically in TikTok, but also a lot in X. I saw those posts every day, and many of them are paid by the CCP.
And if they're Americans, they're supposed to have to register under the FARA Act if they're being paid by the CCP and they're acting in the interest of a foreign country. So they're violating our law. That's one of the things that, like the gentleman at the committee hearing there that was talking, I'm not sure if he's a Democrat or Republican, but he was correct. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're an American, you ought to be really concerned about this stuff. We kind of let that, what is it? What was she, a skier? Gu, is that, or Miss Gu? Who is an American citizen born here, but decided she was going to take up Chinese citizenship and ski for China and all that and get paid for them. Well, you can't have dual citizenship in China. So why is she still allowed to come here and live in the United States of America? That's the kind of complacency that we deal with on a day-to-day basis still today, even though it's so obvious.
It's because of the infiltration and the influence by the CCP. But also, I have to say something. I have to say this, and I say this over and over. The CCP has been so successful because it has found a very reliable ally here in America, and they are the Communist Democratic Party. And then also they have found allies within the Republican Party. Those are the rhinos. And so that is why they have been so successful taking over and influence every part of our society. I always say this is the theme of my book. The enemy is here. The enemies are within. So before we talk about defeat CCP, we have to look right here. And these are the woke ideology and the people who absolutely identify with those ideologies.
Yeah, I mean, we're putting a lot of effort into our foreign policy and national military strategy, and that's fine. I fully support it. We can afford to do that, but we ought to be putting the same level of effort into eradicating the CCP and Islamists from our country because they're working together as a combined team in order to dismantle the United States of America. We even heard their sponsored professors say those kinds of words, and their sponsored entertainment people and sports people say those kinds of words. Their goal is to dismantle the United States. One of the things that I'm worried about, Ms. G, is that Americans like you, and you mentioned Joe McCarthy earlier, and that was one of the things that when I read the history of his effort, which I think he was right, I do.
He's right.
Yeah. My question though is, how do we identify the real enemies without hurting Americans like you? Like one of the other young ladies who I think her last name is Liu, who's a Chinese American who loves America. She was skiing, I think, again, the exact opposite of the other, of Elaine Gu. So how do we enact very aggressive policy, but put protections in so Americans are protected?
Okay, so one thing I have to say, this is very important, and I've been saying this to a lot of the Republicans, that when we speak, when we talk, we make sure that we separate CCP from China. China is not CCP. CCP is not China. Chinese people are not CCP. And this is something that we always say, China, China, and then it's not China. It's the CCP, which is a foreign imported ideology. It's not Chinese. It only has a history of 100 years old, and it's born in 1921, but ruled China since 1949. The other thing is that to love freedom is not betrayal your heritage. I love Chinese heritage, but I love freedom. I'm defending America because I love freedom. And so we have to separate those ideas. And then when people just say, I'm not what I happened to be born. I'm American, an American. The reason I'm American is I love freedom. I love this country and what this country gives to me. I'm defending it because this is where our freedom is. And so CCP is not China. Being American is not against China.
Yeah, and I've shared the stage with you celebrating America and protecting American freedom, even if it's a part of our past that a lot of people hate and disagree with. You and I have stood on the same stage in Arlington National Cemetery last year doing that. What are some of the things? I've got about a minute and a half left. I just wanted to give you a chance to say one more time why the folks should go get the book, number one. And number two, I know you're doing some 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence appearances. Anything coming up soon? And where is it at?
Yeah, I just want to people to get the book and to learn this such critical piece of history that is not told to most of the Americans. They have no idea. And then, as we discussed earlier, to defeat communism, to defeat Chinese communism, we have to start from here. We have to understand how we are part of the problem. And before we identify the real problem, we cannot effectively fight against the Chinese communism. So read this book and then spread the message. And for 250th anniversary, I have been doing a lot of traveling and visiting the historical sites. And I think this is a great opportunity to teach American people to love our country. You cannot defend a country you don't love. Before, you know, and we have to fall in love with our country again, with its history and with its heritage, to be proud to be American.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Folks, go get the book, Made in America by G. Van Fleet. You can just look at X Van Fleet on X and find her there. And I'm sure we'll have her back again as we go throughout the years ahead. G. Van Fleet, Made in America, the hidden history behind the U.S. enabling the CCP and creating the greatest threat that we have today. I will see you tomorrow. It's Tuesday. It's Election Day in Texas and other places. Kenny Webster from Houston will be here to talk about these critical elections in Texas. Vote yes for Prop 10, which bans Sharia law. Prop 10 in Texas. We'll see you then.